QuickBooks Online tools for tax accountants. Again, I've been with Intuit since 2004, mostly in a QuickBooks-related position, supportive or sales-enabled position. Now I'm a product specialist, been so since 2008. And I grew up on desktop, and I've been using QBO since 2009. So I still support both platforms, as you probably do as a firm. So I still install, I'm a ProAdvisor, and I still install desktop and enterprise and point of sale. Though typically these days I'm doing mostly it's all about QuickBooks Online. Here's my premise, and why, even if you're not a fan of QBO yourself and you make the big decisions at the firm and you're here today, thanks for coming, of course, again, get a couple people, a couple staff up to speed on QuickBooks Online. Get them certified. Get them competent. The reason, and I'll show you a couple slides, is just the numbers we're seeing of people coming to QuickBooks Online. So you're going to have them in your base. And the benefits really is that there's just no file transfer. And you're touching the books all year round for the most part. I mean, for desktop, you might only be doing it once a year or every quarter or something. So you're going to get a bunch of garbage typically, unless you're visiting and going out in there or you're hosting. With QuickBooks Online, you're in the single ledger of books that you're in their books too. So you can track trends that they're doing. You can see the data entry from the last thing they've done, and they don't have to send you something, and you don't have to wonder what year of QuickBooks do I open it. So I'm just assuming that's kind of everybody likes that part of it. Regardless how you feel at QBO, the lack of transferring files around is really key. So I have a couple quotes in my research for this webinar series that I'm doing for firms of our Intuit business development team. And I think when you registered, you probably put your name of whoever it was, or maybe you're coming in from the territory account manager out of Plano. Either way, thanks for coming, and I'm glad they invited you. But I have several friends in the industry, and they do full service, so accounting, and some do doing desktop, mostly doing QBO, so I kind of interviewed them, and they're also doing tax. Some are doing PTO, some are using other software. So irrespective of assuming books are clean, if you're using QBO, and this is a direct quote, you'll know if the books are clean well in advance to performing the return. Where in desktop, it's more common to have to clean up garbage, because again, you're not getting their current version of the file as often as just logging into QBO. And that's really my premise. That's, I think, the big benefit for the firm, as well as the staff collaboration, which we'll show too. But in desktop, you're more likely to see errors to fix as you've not been in the file throughout the year, right? So that's the same thing. I'm more comfortable setting a closing date and password, because you can do that in QBO, right, as you can in desktop. As I'm going to see the changes right from the client dashboard in QBOA, I'll show you that. That client dashboard, which you all have probably already seen, we're going to push metrics up there and information so you can prioritize, what clients really need the help, or just keep an eye on someone who's just got tons of stuff in bank feed they've yet added to the register. And then finally, you work together with clients throughout the year using bank feeds. Now, at the very end of the presentation, I usually spend about 3 to 5 minutes on bank feeds, just so you can see what you would be able to do throughout the year in getting the data in a faster way, and therefore having reports ready to go as the current month, as opposed to just, okay, well, they're probably accurate as of the end of last month. I mean, we even added a report date range to desktop because of that. Where you probably guess that their books are current as of the end of last month. With QBO, particularly with the ease of the bank feeds, which I'm going to show you at the very end, throughout the year, there's a better chance of the books being current for the current month, this month to date, et cetera, or current year to date. So because they're more on top of the books, accessing QBO file more frequently, et cetera, right? So that was the same theme I was able to glean from my calls with some longtime practitioners. And these numbers are why I believe that you need to get staff ready, and the staff that are more going to just fall in love with the platform, right? It might not be you, and that's fine. You'll have desktop clients. You'll have QBO clients. I'm not here to talk you into moving all your desktop clients to QBO, okay? So you're going to have both. But here are some of the tools and benefits of QBO so you can take a longer look at it and certainly get staff ready. So every quarter we're adding 100,000+ subscriptions, mostly in the U.S., but we're global. And so you can be national. Right? Your firm can go national or even global if you want. And we're at, actually, the numbers are off, that far number on the right top there, 1.7 million-ish subscriptions is where we are at. That's not just users, that's subscriptions, and that's globally. So if you compare that with it took us 8 years to get to 100K, right, and now we're adding 100K every quarter, you're going to have these clients in your base. And you're going to get the same source trial balance data to go to tax. And these clients are going to be tax revenue for the firm as well. So let's bring them into the firm, basically, is what my plea for you. Bring them in. They will lead to other revenue services. with the benefit of not having to get the desktop file or an accountant's copy file that's really limited, we know. And new, I should say businesses new to Intuit, 70% are choosing QBO over desktop. And that's where our marketing dollars are going, that's where our investment dollars are going, et cetera. We're still going to churn out desktop product, but again, as you can tell, over the last 2 to 3 years, our focus has been solely QBO, I think. And certainly, if you look at what's been new for 2016 QuickBooks Account Edition and 17, certainly you can tell the focus is on QBO from a development standpoint. So being on the cloud, key benefits, we've talked about some, like no transferring of data files. You're in the single ledger in the cloud with them. So improved collaboration and within the firm, and that's where I'm going to start with QBOA. Accessible for most devices. I mean, when you're in through the web browser, of course, you're going to have more feature sets, but I can even go on the phone and take a picture of a receipt, and that'll create an expense, a credit card expense, in my QuickBooks Online file automatically, and it'll have the receipt attached. And that can even match the bank feed. And there's many third-party apps, too. We're not really going to be talking about that at a great deal, but throughout the year, this is what you're going to want to talk to your BDM or your Intuit account manager about, is these third-party apps that can automate the data entry, because certainly that's a trend now in the industry. We're VeriSign secured. We're essentially a big bank. I mean, 20+% of the U.S. GDP goes to our servers, through our servers, right? Think of TurboTax, ProSeries, Lacert, payroll, QuickBooks Payments, the merchant service offshoots, QuickBooks Online, our Intuit Data Protect. I mean, it's just a lot of money from the U.S. going through our servers, right? So we have to take it really seriously. I just see it as just an enormous bank, right? 128-bit encryption and all that stuff. You can find out more at security.intuit.com. Uncovering more insights, that's just reporting, because the data is more up-to-date. Because of the bank feeds, we'll look at that and then always up-to-date. I don't have to install any maintenance releases, right? And those are just aligning on the main benefits. This is the firm view. This is the beginning of your portal. This is where you're going to start and invite all your staff. We're going to align there first and then dive into a client file. So I will be in my QBOA. Yours probably looks like this as well, kind of a whitish gray background with a green border. And then I'd like to start with the firm access, including your team. You all don't need your own QBOA. You just invite all the staff in as a team member, and you'll see you can divvy out what clients you want them to access. So enough of PowerPoint slides, right? I'm not a fan of PowerPoint decks, right? We want to be in product, and hopefully you're seeing my screen. So Adams Gill Gibson LLC, this is the firm QBOA. I started it under my email, qbclay@gmail.com. I could have used a generic email address if I wanted to. I know a lot of the BDMs and IMs, and those are the people that I support. These would be the people that would have invited you today, or even the TAM team in Plano. The account managers, that's why you're here today. You might, if you're big enough, and you might just create a generic email. It was a best practice for a while, and sign up for QBOA at quickbooks.intuit.com/accountant. I'll put that in the chat. I'm assuming most of you guys already have a firm QBOA or several of them. And your account managers can help you consolidate that into one, unless you have a reason for having a QBOA like per firm location, which is another best practice. But if you're a single location, you hopefully just have the one consolidated client list, the one QuickBooks Online accountant. And I just go to qbo.intuit.com just like my clients do. But my email drives me into a QuickBooks accountant. Fair enough? So I'm sure you guys are already seeing that. We do give you a free file, though I won't be spending much time here. It's called Your Books. And my encouragement to you with that is do not use it as a sandbox or a playground, right? Don't import rock castle construction. Just play around with it. We give you a sample file under the gear icon, right? In the upper right, you'll see, your account where you track the wholesale billing. I'll let you go with your account manager with that, but, you guys can create these subs for your clients and pay for it, and it's 50% off for life of the subscription. So it's just the most affordable way to get, QBO into your client's hands. But there's a sample file you can use for training and stuff, and it has a lot of good live data. But the Your Books file, wait until you're actually going to use that as the firm books. Okay, just leave it alone, because the clients list or the customer list in Your Books is going to be a mirror image of your client dashboard. So importing a bunch of garbage would just give you a bunch of garbage in your client list. We don't want that, right? So just encouragement for you to affirm. If you're going to use Your Books, wait until you actually are really going to use it for the firm. Until then, just leave it alone. We'll go to the team page, because I think that's really a great place to start. So Clients Team ProAdvisor, that is what you and your staff will see, maybe, depending on the administrative duties you give them access to within QBOA. Because that's what I can do. As a master admin or as a full user, like Michelle could come in and I can have her add another staff and choose what clients that staff would see. So really, this is the story of, okay, for tax season, I might have 8 or 10 other people working on client files to get ready to prep for the return. I can invite these people in and keep them active just for 4 months or 5 months and then make them inactive so they no longer can access these clients until the next tax season. So you can do things like that. Let's go in and let's see here. We'll use Leah as an example. Okay, she's a full user, just came on the firm, but skilled in a bunch of stuff and certainly taxes. So I just invited her with her email address. So when she logs in, she doesn't use mine or the generic email we might have started with to create QBOA. She just comes in with her own email address, and then she'll see whatever clients I give her access. If she's just coming in through the tax season, I might just have her be basic, so she has no really administrative duties at all within the QBOA. She cannot add new QBO clients, and she cannot add other staff, and she has no visibility to the firm credit card or your account page for the wholesale billing. Right? I'm just inviting her so she can work off the same client list as the rest of us in the firm, and she's going to see when she logs in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of 8 really. Oh, I guess she has access to all 10 as well. So she has access to all 10 of our active clients, but this just proves that you can check on or off the clients that you do not want her to see. Or when she comes in, another way to say that, she'll just see the clients I want her to work on. Because I don't want her over on these other clients because those are, for whatever reason, that would be up to you. I'm going to keep her as a full user just because she also adds QBO subscriptions, et cetera, and you really basically need this to be able to do that. And I don't mind if she adds other staff. That's how easy it is to invite a staff member, and it's not uncommon for a staff member when they accept the invite to see several QuickBooks Online accountants. They might be a longtime ProAdvisor, or they might have signed up for QBOA back in the day or something. So they just need to know which one to choose, right? So all of my staff here, from Michelle Long all the way down to Wesley, they would go to qbo.intuit.com, and then they're going to be in Adams Guild Gibson LLC, excuse me, but they might have a different number of clients in the dashboard. Hope that makes sense. So you can kind of control what your staff see, right? And then because they're part of the QBOA, each of them, like Leah, can click on ProAdvisor and she can go ahead and sign up for a ProAdvisor membership, which is free, not the desktop portion. I'm talking about just the QBO side, but she could go get certified and become more competent in the space and therefore help more clients, and then hopefully next year we'll even have more QBO clients, and I might just give her more of a client base, including, maybe payroll or something, right? And we'll only probably expand here more and more stuff that you'll be able to do at a firm level. But right now, that's what it's going to be, right? Adding new clients or not, adding other staff or not, but certainly seeing the list of clients that you want them to see. And then, of course, the dashboard itself, we're going to surface up information about the data. When you see something of unaccepted transactions, that's just the bank feed. It downloads nightly, and I just haven't added it to the register or accepted the match if there already is something in the register. We'll look at that at the very end because I want to get to the accountant tools and some navigation first and reporting, of course. I can see the last download, keep track of that, changes to transactions that are reconciled or changes to transactions before the close date, if there is a close date on the file, and then some payroll information, due dates, liability payment dates, as well as, the tax returns I've already done in PTO, and the working trial balance tool. I have a direct link to that, and I'm going to show you that one too. I can also click in on the actual client name before I even go into the file itself, just to see some current balances and what's reconciled. I mean, for me, this makes me happy that there actually is a reconciliation as of 12/31/2016. I think that file is probably pretty good, 80% there anyway. We'll see. Payroll info, tax info, and things like that. So there is that. And anything blue will just take you into the file itself. So we got the team involvement, we got the dashboard. That's basically it from an accounting, from a taxes standpoint, really. Just mention the Your Books file and a little bit about the ProAdvisor. Now, I can drop into a client file just by clicking this client picker drop-down or client switcher, whatever you want to call it. Or I like just going into the status column, like you might, and just hover over the icon. It'll turn green, so I can click on it. It'll drop me into the client file. We'll go there now. But when I'm hovering over it, I'm able to see the level of the subscription, who's the last person that signed in. Joe did, and he signed in today. So this will drop me into the file, and let's go over some basic navigation. If you have not been in QBO since before the holiday season, like mid-December, which I'm assuming you guys all would have, but maybe not, the color scheme has changed, right? The access points are pretty much the same, other than we moved the plus sign, which is the quick create or the quick access to transactions. We moved it about 8 inches to the right. It was dead set in the middle, dead center, I should say. In the middle, we moved it to the right, next to the gear icon, which would be your operational settings. Right? And we'll go in there and look some accountant settings. And then you have a dashboard where you can drill into things, see a report, or go see my open invoices or those that are overdue and expenses, and I can change the date range for these widgets. We give you some charts and graphs, and they're just more squared now. Everything's kind of more boxed, and we've increased the font size and got rid of the dark blue, but essentially the access points outside of the plus sign are exactly the same. Left-hand panel, plus sign, gear icon. These happen to be just right next to each other, which I like because I think it brings the gear icon, which is really important because that's where your settings are, up front or more visible. And you'll see your QB accountant in the upper left, right? You can always go back there. The hamburger icon, these 3 lines on top of each other, just closes the left-hand panel. If you're on a big report and you want more real estate, that's all it does. And I'll go over the toolbox in a second, and you can go in and out of other files. This is really, that goes back to that initial benefit where I'm just logging into a single ledger in the cloud. I don't need to get a backup portable or accountant's copy or wonder what year to open it is. You know, my client's in either Simple Start, Essentials Plus, or even self-employed. All of those web-based, solutions I can access, and my staff can, from QBOA. And once I'm signed in, I'm in, so I can go in and out of files. And if we have time, we'll look at the Windows app, because I know some of you guys are more akin to desktop, and that'll make it more familiar. I do have that up as well. Okay, a little more on the navigation piece. Left-hand panel. Now, don't worry, yours might be a little different than mine. It might say home, customers, vendors, employees, transactions, reports, taxes. I think that's the current left-hand panel in most of your clients' file. But we're all going to have this one eventually, where you have the dashboard, and then banking will be bank feeds and rules. I like this accounting piece because accounting is going to be your chart of accounts and reconcile all in one. So our goal is, as we kind of enhance this navigation experience, is to related activities to a workflow we're going to include so you don't have to go outside of the workflow. But that could be for a webinar for another day. Let's focus on accountant tools specifically. But you might have saw my left panel and gone, wow, that's really different from mine. Your clients will eventually have something like that. But it's really the same. You're going to have a left-hand panel. It's going to be similar lingo. You're going to have the plus sign. You're going to have the gear icon. Now, let's talk about how you get multiple windows open. And we might as well start with reports. I guess even before I go there, this briefcase. I'm kind of wanting to go there now. These are your accountant tools. Your client, they don't have like a client switcher drop-down when they're in, and they don't have this toolbox where we're consolidating what we think are the key tools into one place for you. Similar in theory when you're using the QuickBooks Account Edition to work with your Pro Premier clients. Obviously, there's some differences. I mean, just thematically, that's what we're trying to do. We wanted to create a platform for the firm. Collaboration is going to be better and faster because you're logging in versus restoring. But still, you have that accountant drop-down menu. Similar here, right? So we have a working trial balance we'll look at towards the end. Batch classified transactions is great. There's a void deleted transaction report. This one, not used as much, but if you have to write off some small amount invoices, you can do that. And then you have a quick access to journal entries. What I like to do when I come into a client file first, though, before I go to my accountant reports, and I'll show you, we'll get to reports first. We'll do that first. But report tools, see? And remember this new window thing. I'm going to show you that in a sec. But this report tools, it's the old accountant home if you guys have been using QBOA for any matter of time. And this is where you would have landed first. But I like to choose, since I'm doing the tax year, I'm going to set all my reports to open a cash basis, and it's going to be last year. And for the most part, the reports and tools that I use from here on out should match this default date range. So let's go to reports. And I usually start at all reports so you can see the report bucket. Now, accountant reports you will have as its own bucket on the right, where you will find like the trial balance, another way to get to a P&L or a balance sheet. And we can go right to the trial balance now. You just click on it, you can click to customize, and sometimes this one does not behave, but we'll look at, I think we still want last year, and we want to change it to cash basis. You can customize these on the fly as well. So the numbers changed a little, but not much. You saw a little blink there. But what if I also want the PL up in the balance sheet? Because maybe my tax program, sure, I like the debit and credit format of the trial balance, pretty tried and true, but on some forms, in talking to some of my friends that do taxes, they will use a P&L sometimes, or a balance sheet as well, not just always a trial balance. So if I want to get that up and I'm using Google Chrome, because as a best practice, just sharing, Google Chrome, I believe, is great for QuickBooks Online, although Firefox too. And even IE 11, right? I don't know if we support Edge yet, but Safari as well. But when I'm in Chrome, and typically I've been using Chrome since '09 for QBO, so I too get used to what you get used to, right? Right-click the tab you're on and click Duplicate or something else. But now I have two trial balances, so now I can go to Reports, and then I can go to my profit and loss. And then you can do this with transactions as well. And then we'll bring up the journal entry. Right-click, open a new tab, and that's going to open a journal entry. Now, the report titles of the tabs will just show the name of the company file, so you won't really know. But this is how I'm getting my open windows list, if you will. And then I have the journal entry open here, and I'm going to click. By the way, this recent history icon is fantastic. I would mention that while we're on journal entry, and then we'll get back to reporting and how you get multiple tabs. Just like in your Premier Account Edition, you have this box called Adjusting Journal Entry, so I can check that off. That's going to correlate to an Adjusting Journal Entry report that you also have in your Accountant Reports bucket when you go to Reports. And you might have noticed, and you might be like, wow, is something broken? Because I see you've done an AR and an AP in the same journal entry. It's not broken at all. I would argue that it's the desktop that's broken. The coding in QuickBooks Online just supports multiple AR, AP per journal entry. There is that. You could just do one journal entry and hit all the AR and AP you want all day long. Just remember the names. You're going to have the names. Certainly that's still required. But the point being is that you have three tabs open in the same file. Got a P&L here. I could right-click, duplicate again. Or, actually, let me do it a different way. If you don't remember the duplicate thing, going back to that Accountant Toolbox new window, right, you're going to scroll down, just left-click new window. It does the same thing. It's just going to bring up the last tab you were in, and now I can go back to Reports and Balance Sheet. So it's not, as exacting as you're used to with an open window list, and you're toggling back and forth. But once you duplicate or choose a new window and have these tabs open, now you will have this kind of experience. One quick tangent, let's look at the window app, and then we'll come back to exporting a report, the trial balance to Excel, and move on with accountant tools. Maybe you just want to take it one step further, because if I have this journal entry and I just booked it now and we know it's going to impact both the P&L and balance sheet and obviously the trial balance, these other tabs won't know that I entered the journal entry. This is important to qualify. There's no auto refresh when you're doing this tab browsing tip or trick to get the multiple windows. So before you send the report to Excel or by email or print it out or whatever for your client, they're going to be like, hey, I thought you said you're doing a bunch of journal entries. I don't see any difference. Make sure you hit F5 or hit the refresh icon in the report tabs you have. Very important, so that when I hit refresh here, it's going to pick up that journal entry, or the check or whatever. Oh yeah, good question. Where was the accountant page where you chose reports, periods, bases, etc.? Under the briefcase, go to Report Tools, okay? And that's going to bring you to your, let me do it in this one because I don't really need the P&L up anymore. Report Tools will bring me to the old accountant home, where you can set the default date range and see some reconciliation balances and status. And then you can also, under the same toolbox, go to Accountant Reports, which will bring you directly to that main Accountant Reports section. But there's a couple ways to do it. I mean, I can go to All Reports and Business Overview. That's akin to Company Financial and Desktop, right? So, I mean, all these report buckets are pretty obvious after that. AR, AP, payroll. This is going to be an item-based reporting, sales activity, expenses and vendors, purchases, and sales tax. Business Overview is like in Desktop when you go to Reports, Company Financial, right? But the General Ledger, the Trial Balance, those you don't find in Business Overview for whatever reason. They're in Accountant Reports, and Accountant Reports has a couple extra more Accountant Edition-like reports that you'd be used to on Desktop, the Adjusting Journal Entry report, and that's why we have that box in the journal entry to begin with. It's similar theory to what we do in QBA. And then you have the Adjusted Trial Balance. But I know most of you guys use the Trial Balance. Anyway, long story short, that's where you go for that. And you can right-click on the tabs and duplicate to have multiple tabs, or this toolbox will be a friend to you. Go to New Window, or go to the Chart of Accounts, or go to Reconcile, or set a closing date, or go to Journal Entry. This toolbox really is like your accountant menu in desktop. Obviously not the same options, but I mean, thematically, it should resonate for those of you guys that are longtime desktop QBA users, right? Okay, let me close the tabs now. Now, what if I wanted to have a similar thing, but I wanted the auto refresh to happen? When you sign in to QBO, actually on the sign-in window, you'll see it download the Windows app. We actually created an app. I mean, even your clients can use it, but really it's mostly for accountants, I think. But clients can use it too. If you're just really used to that workflow, Windows open into their own window, auto refresh, keyboard shortcuts, those types of things. Still looks like QBO, but it's more akin to desktop workflow with navigation, I should say. So you're going to download that. It's just a little utility. It's just called QuickBooks, right? It's right next to my Enterprise and my Premier, right? Just make sure you know which one you're clicking on. You can always rename these icons. And it's just going to be, now I'm in a file as a different staff member, but I'm still in from QuickBooks Accountant. I'm in Katie's company file, and I have this drop-down menu. So under Create, all the transactions are here. I mean, I can still use the plus sign at the far right, or the gear icon, or the left-hand panel, but a lot of people just come in here and they'll close the left-hand panel just to have it, pretend it's like desktop, even though to me it still doesn't look like it, but you have the drop-down. I think that's the key. So now I can click, like journal entry or Control-J. There's like 75 shortcuts, and they all open to their own window size. And you're starting to build, I'll show you where I get my open window list. Let's say we're going to enter a check. So this will be a check. And you can go to reports, and I can open a P&L or a balance sheet, or I can go to all reports and access all my reports. And all these can be moved to different monitors as well, which I like. And then, so the Create menu is all your transactions. Company would be your gear icon. Navigate is the left-hand panel. And then reports. I find most use this, and they use Create, right? And you can even create your own favorites menu, which is nice, if you're used to that, like with whatever browser you use. And then when I put my mouse in the system tray, hopefully you guys are seeing this, I have the main page of QuickBooks, the dashboard there, the journal entry, the check, the report. They're all accessible, and I just mouse over them to get to them. So it's a little easier to toggle back and forth. And if I had this check, and if I just created it, pretend, it would auto-refresh the P&L or the balance sheet, depending on what it's impacting based on the accounts there. So that's the Windows app. I would encourage you, or if someone struggles with the web version of QuickBooks in the firm, it's free, and it's also free for your clients. It might have just moved from like 2010 or 8. If you go to the Help menu, that's where you can get the keyboard shortcuts. So that's what we can show regarding tips and tricks with navigation. I just wish there was a window close all tab. So let's move on to reporting. Someone asked regarding these tools, search for transactions. Let's do that. Okay, I love the search. You can search for transactions, and if it's an amount, do a dollar amount, or you can go to the advanced search if you need that. This search field, when you left-click, will show like the last 10 or 15 things you did, and I can even go search for a report if I want to. Just type the report name, it'll bring you there. So that's the search field on the right, or you can click advanced search, and here I can search across multiple different transaction types. Just choose the ones you're looking for, and then you can have multiple filters. Maybe you want to do by check number, or last modified date, or payee, or item, or something like that. And it just searches like everything. It's basically a list report. And a lot of these things on the left-hand panel are going to be like a list report, right? Like sales would have customers and sales transaction window in your products and services. Or you might see customers, and it would be similar. You would have customers there. And then you might have transactions in the left-hand panel, and sales transaction window, which is basically this. This is a list report, and a lot of these windows will have an action column for the next logical step in the workflow. But that's how you search for transactions. Use a search field. If you need an amount, do a $sign, or just search for a number or a report. Like if I do expenses by vendor summary, it's going to come up with expenses by vendor report. So I might not know where that is. Well, you should have a good idea when you're in there, but you know what I mean. So let's go back to my trial balance, and actually, your memorized report list is like my custom reports. That's your memorized report list. Excuse me. One other question. Are these tools only applicable in the accountant version? I have clients who send me an invite to access their online QuickBooks. Right. So the tools in the briefcase, that's going to be when you're actually in the client file from QBOA. If you're in as them, you won't see the working trial balance or batch or classify. Right? I mean, you guys, I'm jumping around now, but it's okay. I mean, these are just things I wanted to make sure you knew where they are. You might be using the client data review tool or module within Account Edition, and everyone uses Batch or Classify, right? That your clients miscode transactions. I mean, I can do that too, but I actually need to be in the QBO client file from QBOA in order to move all these. Obviously, that we don't want them hitting miscellaneous. That's not going to help me out from a tax or anything standpoint, really. I want to go to the appropriate account. So I can choose, the appropriate expense or cost of goods sold account where these would go to. We'll just put them in here for now, and I can even start class tracking if I want. So those kind of accountant tools you're used to in desktop, we moved under the briefcase, including the trial balance, which we'll get there, and avoided deleted transaction report, so I can see, what and who voided and deleted thing, and even the history by viewing it. So I know what I have to re-input, or can I just let it be or do a journal entry, or a couple of them really as a workaround. So these tools, long story short, is they're accessible because you're in the client file from QBOA. However, only these 4 your clients don't have. I mean, your client can do a journal entry. They just don't have the adjusting box. They can set a closing date and password. We just would prefer they didn't. They can reconcile, and important to note, only you guys can undo it. You see the undo tab at the far right? So you want to be in. I mean, for me, the story ends just even at the collaboration within the firm. Right? That to me is enough to prove, okay, QBOA, it's free to me unless I'm paying for the sub, and all my staff can work up the same list. Done. You sold me. Right? There's nothing really to sell, I feel, on this platform. It's more about just getting used to QBO, right? I mean, you're going to have clients where they just don't want to pay the monthly fee, and that's fine. Keep them on desktop until they see the value of this collaboration. But for the firm, everybody has a free ProAdvisor membership, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be using this. And you certainly should not be going into your clients as them anymore because of these other tools I'm showing you. Does that make sense? So undoing a bank rec, adjusting journal entries, your own kind of reporting section, your accountant toolbox, those are key, I think, beyond just the benefits I think that we've gone over at the firm level with, staff access, working off the same list, et cetera. And you just kind of figure we're going to add more and more stuff that would be, pro-firm visibility and info to QBOA. And this is kind of the platform we're going with. But thanks for those questions. I appreciate it. I'm not actually answering them in the question box because I just want to keep moving on. All right, back to trial balance. Let's say we've done our cleanup, and I'll show the working trial balance in a second. And you have your trial balance the way you want, and again, most reports will open to the default. For whatever reason, this one in particular, I would just save it. That's actually my example. When you guys are here and you've done like cash basis, we're looking at last year, ready to go, but I'm actually not going to do the return for about 3 or 4 weeks. It'd be nice if I could just save this report, right? And so that other people can access it. So you can further customize the reports, and I don't know all the customizations you'll do for a tax engagement, but if I have the trial balance the way I want it, and I can do some rows and columns, things like that, I can save the customization, right? This is like memorizing the report, and I can, save it to a group or create a new group, company financials or tax year reports or something, and even share it with other company users in the file. Once you're done getting the report, whether it's the PL balance sheet or trial balance or whatever report you're running in here, for even throughout the rest of the year, make sure you save the customizations. It is akin to memorizing the report, right? Then when you go to reports, in my custom reports, I have my list here, right? So I can go ahead and run my trial balance in my TY17. It opens to cash this year. I don't have to do anything else. And now I want to go to Excel. So we'll show the working trial balance tool and the integration with PTO, but going to Excel I think is critical. And I'll answer the rest of the questions at the end. Let me just get through this and we'll get to that reporting question. Thank you. We should have some time for that. Now you see the export button here, right? So this is going to export to Excel, order a PDF. So I can export it to Excel. And it's that simple. You'll see it in the lower left of the browser window you have open. And then here's the report. Now I still get the number inside with the account in the same column. There's no way I know of divvying that out. You could try to turn the account numbers off in your company settings. And we could look at that towards the end, but usually I still see them. But there's my debit and credit column, and this is the source file I would use to bring in to whatever tax program I'm using that has a bridge from Excel, whether it's Lacert and you're using the trial balance utility there, Pro Series. The ProConnect Tax Online integration is where we send the balances to the appropriate fields on the tax form, and I'll show you that. So that's the Excel piece where you can either print it out, send it by email, have it go to Excel, and then you would do the same with your P&L or balance sheet. You just run the reports, from whichever section you're going to, whether business overview or accountant reports. You're just going to run the reports, and then you're going to go ahead and customize them how you want, save the customization so that you don't have to add the columns later or whatever. Sometimes you might be coming and just do like previous year, and then percent change. And I can run the report. And that quickly I can customize and get some extra columns, and now I want to save it so I don't have to recreate this report. So that's kind of just customizing reports in general. And the more detailed reports that you have, the more when you click customize, you'll have more to do with rows and columns. The summary reports like the P&L, balance sheet, trial balance, is not a whole lot of customization you're doing, but though I can still filter, if I want to. But the detail reports will have columns that I can add or remove or move them in different order, etc. So that's where you can customize. Just remember to save it and name it and add it to a group or share it with other users that access the file, and that's just based on their user access. Okay, so that pretty much ties up reporting. Let's look at another tool that I think is important, two more, and then we'll go to ProConnect Tax Online, and then we'll circle back on the questions in the area regarding reporting. This trial balance, right? So it'll say new. It's been in there for a while, but it's a working trial balance. If you've ever used the working trial balance in your QuickBooks Accountant Edition, it's been in there since like 2003. It's right under the Accountant menu, kind of towards the bottom. But I don't know how many people are used to leveraging it. So it's similar to that with a few added benefits. When you come in and start using the trial balance, QBO is going to start keeping track, of all the transactions other users bring into the file from when you started it. And I think, I would have started it just probably back in the end of December when I started doing this. So there's this way. I mean, you can use the audit log and filter that by date range too. That's a great way, and that's under the gear icon. But really, you're going to have all of your accounts that have balances either in 15 or 16, because you're doing this. There's no way to choose like last quarter or month yet, right? So it's not really exactly as the Troubleshoot Prior Account Balances tool in the Client Data Review, but it's getting there, right? So it's really just looking at the unadjusted balance of 2016, which I haven't really reviewed, or I'm starting to because I've checked off some of these balances. And other staff, I'd see their name if they came in and reviewed the account balances. They're fine, and check them off. And then you have this 2015 ending balance. These are the balances that would have gone to, let's say, LaCert or PTO last year, right? And then the over/under activity, I can make adjusting journal entries. If there was a change to petty cash or something, I click on the actual tab. It's going to open up the adjusting journal entry window. And this is a workspace. Everything I do here is going to be live and going to be in the books file. What I can do that's different from the WTB and desktop is that I can add a work paper reference, or I can attach. I can look at the attachment I have. It's probably the bank statement I downloaded, right? That's typical for those accounts. You would do that this time of year, just have the last month's statement, right? And you just reconciled it. So you can attach those types of things at the account level. You can do some work paper references. Just put in a note for others to see. Your client's not going to see this. Okay, this is not a tool they will see. And we're going to show the debit and credit totals at the bottom. And let's say you've done what you can, and you've made journal entry adjustments, and you've batch or classified, and you've entered some data, et cetera. Made sure your reconcile's clean and you're ready to go to tax. If you're going straight to ProConnect Tax Online, I should say if you're not going to PTO, if you're going to some other solution, like LaCert or Pro Series, you would just go to the trial balance report when you're done with this, and then kick that to Excel. If you're using PTO, and this is where the kind of online office theory, this is the story it's going to show you here. If you're using ProConnect Tax Online, and by the way, I think we give you guys 25 free returns if you sign up for PTO by the end of January, January 31st. So usually it's 7 free returns, but now it's 25 returns. I think most of those are 1040s, and a good number are going to be business returns as well, just to try it out, free printing or e-filing. So pick some clients in your list this tax season and try it. Try those 4 or 5 or 10 or whatever, or take advantage of the full free 25, just so you can see if you're really saving some time just sending the balances over. Because when I click on tax mappings, we're going to map most of the balances for you to the appropriate fields in the tax program. However, if you don't think construction income goes here, you can click Edit Tax Line, and you can choose, which line it would go to. right? And we'll tell you when stuff isn't mapped and you have to go in. But this is an 1120S, right? So I'm going to, all of them are mapped. And once I have that taken care of, and this working trial balance can go to Excel or be printed as well. You have the icons over here. But I can click View Tax Return. And that's going to, I'm just going to do a new return, even though I always use this file for these demos, and I probably have tons of tax year 16 returns. So don't really pay much attention to that, because typically you wouldn't have that scenario as me. You'd be creating a new one, but you can also update an existing one if you've been working on it, just with some new balances you have. And when you click Update an existing one, it'll give you some options. I'm just going to create a new one just for this. When I click Continue, it's going to launch, because I'm already signed in, it's going to launch ProConnect Tax Online in a separate tab and start the actual return. So it opened PTO in a separate tab, right? I'm in the client QBO file here in the first tab, right, from QBOA. I clicked View Tax Return, and from the trial balance tool, and now it opened up another tab and brought me to, there's 4 areas within ProConnect Tax Online, or PTO, the Profile, Input, Return, Check Return, and then E-File. So I have the tax return ready for review. It started the return, added the company info, and it's going to update any account balances. So I'm going to be brought usually to the bottom of the form and on the check return, so I can click on 1120S, and it'll bring me to the top. So I'm not going to actually input here, but I don't really need to. Now I'm in review mode, because the balances came over, based on the tax mapping in the trial balance tool in the QBO file itself, right? And I have the balances where I can review. If I need to go input the return, then I would just click Input Return up here, right? You got Profile, Input, and then you have Check Return. And when you input the return itself, you'll have a little left-hand panel. So I can go down to like ordinary income, and we can look at cost of goods sold, or I can go to deductions if I want. And here's where you can override things or see where the things are. Here's Schedule K, right, rental real estate. Here's my 8825, etc. I don't have any balances in here, but this is where you would go to input the return. But if you have to override something or something like that. But assuming you've cleaned up the file using those tools that I showed you in your accountant toolbox, when you send it over to PTO, it's going to bring you to the check return page, and really we're just going to assume you're in review mode. And so this is a direct integration from QBO to our tax software, basically my online office premise, right? The other thing that's important to note about PTO, and then we'll go back and look at some questions. I want to show bank feeds quick, and then we'll go to that question, is the critical diagnostics. This is the Lacert data engine that we're using, the tax engine. It's really well known industry-wide for diagnostics. So you're not going to be able to e-file it till all the red's gone kind of thing, and then you can e-file it and go to the File Return Center. Okay, awesome. So I don't see any questions on that, but yeah, so the PTO, I'm not sure if that can import from Lacert. I know they were talking about an integration between the two, but I don't have a lot of visibility on the tax side per se. I know that I can take the trial balance report to Excel from QBO, as I showed, and that can go into the trial balance utility of Lacert, but I can't go from the working trial balance of QBO directly to Lacert. Right now the direct integration is PTO only, but I'm still using the Lacert data engine. But there are differences between those two programs for sure. I mean, Lacert, Cadillac of the tax industry, so you can at least get it to Excel and go to the trial balance utility, and you can bring in from QuickBooks Desktop or Excel in there, the TBU and Lacert. I think that's under the tools menu. All right, so we're going to look at stuff you can do throughout the year, then we'll go to that reporting question. If I go to banking, and this is, I think, what's really going to be key throughout the year. So tax season's over, but what are you really going to do? QuickBooks is all year round, as we know, and for desktop, you're still only getting that file either monthly or quarterly, most likely, or even yearly. And you guys have different versions of the file with desktop. In this, I'm in their file, I'm in the general product store, and they have a link to their checking account as well as a small business credit card. Right? And throughout the year, I can come in and work with them on teaching them how to bring in this entry, this data, because it's like it's automated. The data drops into this For Review tab. This is not in the register yet. It's just come down from the checking account. Right? You have For Review in QuickBooks and excluded. So the For Review tab is going to have all the transactions that cleared the financial institution yesterday, and that's what I'll see today. Typically, most are going to be an automatic download, sometime after midnight the night before. And you're going to see your predictable expenses. And that's just for this high level, and let's get to the report thing. This is my 2 minutes elevator speech on bank feeds and why they're critical in QuickBooks Online, is getting the data in. Is as you're tracking these particular predictable things that you're seeing, like Home Depot or car park because the guy travels a lot or whatever, instead of having to drill in and actually choose the vendor and the travel account or whatever, the expense or the cost of goods sold account, I can create a rule. And you'll see I have all these bank rules here. I have banking and bank rules, and I've created a rule for all the predictable things, like car park. And it just allows me, as I'm seeing things come in typically from the credit card or the checking account, I can create a rule in which whenever the transaction is downloaded that has bank text containing car park or description, or even add lines for amount greater than or over or whatever, you can get pretty granular on the rules. It's going to create an expense, particularly a credit card expense or a check or whatever, to this payee for this category, and if I'm even doing some class tracking and location tracking as well, or want a default memo. And then I can even check the box to automatically add to my books if it's something I don't have to be, that does not need to be reviewed at all. And that really automates the data entry and gets it into at least categorized for you, so that I can come in and go to the green tab, which it recognizes them all, and accept them all to the register. And it's even going to match the things that are in the register as well. The reason why I'm showing it is the trend in the industry over the next year and a half is going to be this automation of data entry. In QBO, we're working really hard at this one with the bank feed, creating rules so that you can we can automatically recognize transactions that have already come down before, or a rule has been applied to it that you have created for your client, and they can batch add the data to the register in one fell swoop, or we will automatically add it to the register. If it doesn't need to be reviewed, remember there's that checkbox. And we're just going to keep enhancing and improving on the algorithms with all this and things like that, and matching the transactions within the register, etc. So you can connect to really any account just by clicking Add Account, assuming you have the information. Put in the URL or the web address of your client's bank account and log in and start downloading transaction data, so that they don't really even need to enter it into, through the plus sign. Just let it come down from the bank. I mean, obviously they're going to enter some invoices and sales sheets, etc., and bills, but it can automate a lot on the expense side for sure. People are saving time there, and that's where the firm is involved in, because you want to make sure that you're creating the rules that will put it in appropriately. Transaction messaging, the only thing, you guys might have seen this, I'm in as a client now. I'm going to go in as a client here. You see this message icon at the top, and it says the number 2. If the client comes in, they'll see this 2 here, and I can actually ask my client questions at the transaction level. It's kind of an instant messaging service within QuickBooks Online between me and the client, right? The client and the accountant or the firm. You'll see this little icon at the top right. It's like a message icon. So when I'm on a bill or a check, I can choose a recipient and ask a question. So I'm the client now in, and I see that my accountant asked, did I purchase a computer? And I could choose a recipient, and I could say, yes, I did. Is that not office supplies, right? I mean, it is going to replace you having to have one email that you're constructing over a week or a couple hours with screenshots, and you're asking them. Send them a post within the file when you're in there, and then next time they come in, they even get an email alert. But when they come in, they'll have this little message in the upper right, and you'll have it too. You'll have it as well when you're in the file. See, I have this one. I'm in as the accountant now, and it's telling me, yes, I did. Is that not office supplies? Right. So you can have this ongoing conversation at the transaction level within QBO. And it basically supports bills and checks, but those are the ones you're going to be asking for them the most anyway.